Have you ever been driving down the highway and suddenly found yourself behind a brand new truck that costs more than most people's houses? You know the one I'm talking about. The gleaming monster with chrome everything, leather seats that probably cost more than your monthly rent, and a payment that would make your mortgage broker weep. And here's the thing that really gets me: the person driving it probably makes less money than you do. So, what's going on here? How are regular people somehow affording these astronomical car payments? My name is Marcus, and I spend way too much time thinking about money. If you've ever wondered how your neighbor can afford that $70,000 pickup truck, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, before we dive into the mechanics of how people are pulling this off, let me paint you a picture of what we're actually dealing with here. The average new car payment has crossed into territory that would have been considered insane. We're talking about monthly payments that exceed what many people pay for rent. And yet somehow, millions are signing on the dotted line every single month, driving off in vehicles that cost more than the median household income. But here's where it gets really interesting. Most of these people aren't secretly millionaires. They're teachers, nurses, mechanics, and office employees. Regular folks who somehow found a way to make the numbers work. Or at least they think they did. The truth is, there's a whole system designed to make these impossible payments seem possible. And understanding the system isn't just curiosity, it's about protecting yourself from a decision that could derail your future for 10 years. Let's start with the most obvious question. How much are we actually talking about here? Because when I tell people the average car payment numbers, they usually assume I'm making them up. The average new car payment has climbed to over $700 per month. $700. That's not for a luxury vehicle or some exotic sports car. That's the average payment for a regular new car purchased by a regular person. But it gets worse when you start looking at trucks and SUVs. These payments routinely exceed $900 per month, and it's not uncommon to see payments over $1,200 every single month for 6, 7, or even 8 years. We're talking about payments that total more than $80,000 over the life of the loan. And that's before you factor in insurance, maintenance, and fuel costs. Now, you might be thinking, well, maybe people are just making a lot more money these days. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's not what's happening at all. Household income has increased, but nowhere near enough to justify these payments using traditional wisdom. So, how are people doing it? The answer lies in factors that have fundamentally changed how people approach car buying. First, let's talk about loan terms. Remember when a car loan was 3 years? Those days are gone. Today's car loans routinely stretch 6, 7, or 8 years into the future. Some lenders are even offering 10-year car loans, which honestly sounds like something from a financial horror movie. The appeal is obvious. If you spread that $60,000 truck payment over 8 years instead of 4, the monthly payment drops significantly. Suddenly, that $1,500 monthly payment becomes manageable at $900. But here's what most people don't think about. They're not just lowering the monthly payment, they're dramatically increasing the total amount. That $900 payment over 8 years adds up to over $86,000 compared to $72,000. You'll pay an extra $14,000 just for the privilege of having a lower monthly payment. Even worse, you'll be making payments on that truck long after it's worth a fraction of what you paid for it. By year 5 or 6 of that 8-year loan, you'll owe significantly more than the vehicle's worth. You'll be trapped in what's called negative equity, unable to sell or trade the vehicle without writing a check to cover the difference. The second major factor is the rise of 0% financing. Walk into any dealership and you'll see signs advertising 0% APR for qualified buyers. Sounds amazing, right? Free money to buy that new truck. Here's the thing about those 0% offers that dealers definitely don't want you to understand. They're not actually free money. The cost of that financing is built into the price of the vehicle. More importantly, those 0% offers usually come with strict qualification requirements. The people who actually qualify are typically the same people who could afford to pay cash anyway. For everyone else, the interest rates can be substantial. Then there's the trade-in game. Someone buys a new car with a 7-year loan. After 3 years, they want something newer, but they still owe more than the car is worth. So they roll that negative equity into a new loan for an even more expensive vehicle. This creates a cycle where people are constantly paying for cars they no longer own, while simultaneously taking on debt for new ones. It's like a financial hamster wheel, where the faster you run, the further behind you get. Dealers love this arrangement because it creates customers for life. Once someone is trapped in the negative equity cycle, they become a captive audience. They can't afford to break free because doing so would require writing a check for thousands of dollars. But perhaps the most concerning trend is how normalized these extreme car payments have become. People who would never dream of spending $1,200 a month on anything else somehow convince themselves that it's reasonable for transportation. Think about it this way. If someone told you they were spending $1,200 a month on coffee or clothes, you'd assume they had a serious shopping addiction. But when it's a car payment, we just nod and say, well, you need reliable transportation. This normalization didn't happen by accident. It's the result of decades of marketing that has convinced us that your vehicle is an extension of your identity. Your truck isn't just transportation. It's a statement about who you are. They don't sell cars anymore. They sell lifestyles, dreams, and social status. That commercial showing the rugged truck climbing mountains is selling you the fantasy that you're that kind of person, even if the closest you get to off-roading is parking on grass. This emotional manipulation makes it much easier for people to justify payments that would otherwise seem completely irrational. When you're not just buying a truck, but buying into an identity, that $900 payment feels like an investment in yourself. Many people are essentially restructuring their entire financial lives around their car payment. They'll eat ramen noodles for lunch every day while driving to work in a vehicle that costs more than some people's houses. I've seen people stay with roommates longer than they planned just so they can afford their dream truck payment. They'll skip vacations and avoid restaurants to support a car payment that consumes 30% of their take-home income. Some are taking on second jobs specifically to cover their vehicle expenses. They'll deliver food on weekends using their expensive truck to generate the income needed to pay for that same truck. It's like a bizarre form of indentured servitude. Others are dipping into retirement accounts, borrowing from their future selves. They don't realize they're potentially sacrificing hundreds of thousands in future wealth for a fantasy that will be worth practically nothing in 10 years. Then there's the credit card shuffle. People will put maintenance, insurance, and fuel costs on credit cards just to free up cash for their monthly car payment. They're essentially using high-interest debt to subsidize their transportation. It's like using a blowtorch to light a cigarette. Technically, it works, but it's probably not the smartest approach. The most concerning trend is people taking out home equity loans to cover down payments or negative equity. They're leveraging their homes to buy cars, which fundamentally misunderstands the purpose of both assets. Your house should be building wealth over time. Your car should be getting you from point A to point B. When you start using your house to fund your car addiction, you've got the equation backwards. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Many aren't just doing it for one vehicle. The average American household now owns more cars than licensed drivers, which is mathematically impressive and financially terrifying. It's not uncommon to find families with 2 or 3 car payments running simultaneously. Dad has his work truck, mom has her SUV for the kids. Suddenly, their combined car payments exceed what they pay for housing. These families have set up their own car finance companies, but instead of making money, they lose money every month. They manage depreciation schedules for assets that depreciate every day. Then there's the insurance component that most people underestimate. Insuring a $60,000 truck costs significantly more than a sedan. Add in comprehensive coverage and gap insurance, and you're looking at another $200 per month. For families with multiple expensive vehicles, insurance can exceed $500 monthly. That's $6,000 per year just for the privilege of legally driving their depreciating assets on public roads. Maintenance costs present another surprise. Modern trucks are incredibly complex machines. A simple brake job can cost $1,000, and transmission problems can run $5,000 or more. This creates a vicious cycle. The car payment that was supposed to be manageable becomes the catalyst for a debt spiral. You'll see people with pristine $70,000 trucks frantically searching their couch cushions for gas money. It's like having a Rolex while living on ramen noodles. Technically impressive, but missing the point entirely. Fuel costs for these giants can reach $400 a month. That's what people used to pay for an entire car loan. Let's run the numbers. Over 7 years, you'll spend $130,000 on that truck, including insurance and fuel. And at the end, you'll own a vehicle worth maybe $15,000. That's not financing. That's wealth destruction. If you simply invested that $800 a month in 7 years, you'd have over $70,000. You wouldn't just avoid debt, you'd build wealth. But the magic of marketing makes us choose metal over freedom. Next time you see someone driving a vehicle that costs more than your house, remember, they're probably eating cereal for dinner to afford it. And maybe that reliable used car in your driveway isn't looking so bad after all.